Hi, this is Linda Shea with Drilling Contractor. Today I'm in Mexico City reporting from the 2018 IADC Critical Issues Latin America Conference. And today I have with me Chris Getz, who's partner of Kingston Systems. He gave a presentation at the conference today about some lessons that were learned as the industry reactivates some 6th-generation rigs. Chris, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Linda. It's great to be here.
So in terms of the rig reactivations you discussed in your presentation, can you tell us what were some of the concerns that were identified?
We identified concerns across the entire gamut of mostly jackup rigs, which is the specific topic of the conversation. There wasn't one specific area that was an issue. You have to remember most of these rigs, in fact, most of the rigs worldwide that have been stacked for a period of time and therefore somewhat neglected. So everything from environmental changes and degradation, whether it's a hydraulic hose or a piece of fiberglass, to certificates of conformity from a lifeboat expiring, certifications expiring, to a version control and version change on a PLC. We've really seen an entire lapse of maintenance, top to bottom or subsurface to crown on these vessels. And so it's pretty much everything that we're seeing.
What did you find in terms of the criticality of the concerns discovered, as well as concerns that were able to be closed out before the rigs had to start their contracts?
Again, Linda, that's a fantastic question. We discovered a significantly higher amount of issues that were critical versus something we might have seen 5 years ago. So that was the first takeaway. If we find 10 issues, typically 10% are critical issues, but we found a significantly higher percentage, so more like 20 to 30%. Of those, again, it's the entire gamut of the vessel. We're looking at electrical, hydraulic, and control system issues. It's everything from certificates being expired and the drilling contractor not having the personnel to go through the recertification process for something like a lifeboat or something like the BOP rams. That's obviously critical to operations and from a safety and an operational performance perspective. Another component that people often forget about on jackup rigs, especially these 6th-generation rigs, is that the entire vessel is now controlled by computers and control systems. And they're often integrated with multiple vendors. So regression, and when these rigs that have been stacked for so long, when the software comes back on, often the vendors want to install a patch. And that patch may overwrite critical configurations that are unique to that vessel, or critical configurations that are unique to the integration of multiple vendors. And that often gets overwritten and erased. And what the contractor and the operators forget is that this often requires basically a recommissioning of the equipment, which takes time. And it's that time factor that becomes so critical when we're bringing these rigs from a warm stack condition back into operations.
So what would be your top 2 or 3 recommendations that you could give to either drilling contractors or operators as they head into a rig reactivation?
A top couple recommendations for both drilling contractors and operators. I think the first one is manage your expectations. Think about the project plan. Make sure the project plan is realistic and you can do it in the time that is required or desired, that you're supporting that plan, i.e. you're encouraging the vendors to be there present with you at the right time, that they're not sitting idle waiting for you and then you dismiss them when you actually need them. That's the first component. The second component is more specifically on the control side component, because these are 6th-generation rigs, which are quite new. We haven't really brought any of these back from warm stack, which was the whole point of the conversation. Don't forget that software and control systems need a little bit of different attention than we're used to on a jackup. Be sure to have electronics engineers and the appropriate vendors there to support the, let's say, the restart of those control systems. I mentioned regression as a case study of one of the critical issues that we find quite often. That's often forgotten in the plan, to have the vendors there to make sure that they're updating their software. And that just adds complication, adds time, adds duration, and adds confusion to the restart process. And then the third component is start thinking about how you're managing control systems, both from a cybersecurity perspective, from a software management of change perspective, internally in your drilling contractor organization. Do you have the staff to maintain this equipment? And then externally, as an operator contracting the equipment, how are you addressing the risks of those components in your rig contracts?
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us your experiences about rig reactivations.
And thank you, Linda, and let's all be safe out there.
And thank you, viewers, for joining us on drillingcontractor.org.